Hello everybody and welcome back to Extra Holiday Games. I'm Extra Holiday and we are starting on this new level called wait for it. Meltdown Mountain. Oh boy, this sounds like it's gonna be a fun time. There's nothing up here, right? Oh no, there's actually just a bunch of one-ups. Okay. That is unexpected. I mean, there were other levels in this super world where you go to a place like that and there's nothing. Okay, so he's showing me... Oh, okay. He's showing me the little snow pokies. I'm gonna get those one-ups again. He's showing me the snow pokies, and he's showing me the piranha plants melting the coin blocks, the ice coin blocks. Okay. Alright. Getting a sense for what this level's about. I didn't get very far last time, but... Okay, that's awkward. Really awkward trying to kill that guy when he's going uphill. More one-ups, please. Yay. You ever put any thought into how far some of these characters fall when they fall from a high place? Because Toad definitely just fell like 20 body lengths. And even if he's only like 3 feet tall in this form, that's still like 60 feet. That's a long fall. That's again, it's a good thing certain games don't have fall damage. 'Cause that would hurt. That would hurt. You know what really gets me? I think I've mentioned before that I've been watching Family Jewels' speedruns. I don't know if I've talked about it recently, but I was watching his Mario 64 speedruns. And now I've been watching, well, the highlights of them anyway. Because I don't know, I didn't feel like watching the actual full VOD. But I was watching his Mario 64 highlights. And now I've been watching, seriously? I thought that was going to kill him. Blech. Right. Now I've been watching his Banjo-Kazooie highlights. I also watched his Tony Hawk Pro Skater highlights, where he got the world record. That was fun. Spoiler, I guess. Although, I guess if you check the leaderboard, you would see that he's up there, but I don't know if someone else has taken the record. Now, anyway, my point is, I've been watching his Banjo-Kazooie speedruns, and I haven't played Banjo-Kazooie before. I probably will at some point, just because I like platformers, but I haven't played it. And I don't know, one thing I was not familiar with was Banjo's fall animation. Because he has an animation for when he falls a long distance. And looking at it, it's kind of terrifying. Because not only is he falling, and not only does the camera like zoom out to show you like, oh yeah, he's falling fast, but also he starts tumbling, which is like, free falling is one thing, but like a tumbling free fall that's really scary. Because that, like, if you imagine yourself in that position, it's like, yeah, that if you're tumbling, you've basically lost all control. Like, unless you really know what you're doing. Okay. So, yeah, that animation is a bit scary. And like every time it happens, I'm like, ooh, God. And then you lose like four units of health, and it's like, oh yeah, I could see why that would hurt. Yeah. Kind of reminds me of how one or two episodes of Game Theory by Matt Pat. We're just going to talk about a bunch of other YouTubers right now. A bunch of like at least 1 or 2 episodes of Game Theory by MatPat has to do, it has to do with what gravity is in a game. And I think Austin, who is also on that channel, I think he's done it a couple times too, where basically they calculate what the actual acceleration due to gravity is in a game, because it's not always the same as Earth. Earth's acceleration due to gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared. I remember that from my physics class. But a lot of games have significantly higher gravity than usual. Like I think it was a Mario game in which that MatPat calculated where the gravity was like no, maybe it was Assassin's Creed. It might have been Assassin's Creed, where the gravity is actually like 30 meters per second squared. Which is kind of crazy, like 3 times Earth's gravity. So it's a little crazy, And I just find that interesting, because in those cases, if usually in a game, the speed at which a character falls is a specific choice of the developer. It's not usually like there are probably some dev tools in which you can just be like, okay, use Earth's gravity or whatever, and that'll be just a pre-made option to use a downward acceleration equal to what you would find on Earth. But I think in the majority of cases, it is actually a conscious choice by the developer. And the only reason they would choose something that's not realistic, like say 30 meters per second squared, is because they specifically wanted it, right? They want it probably for game feel reasons. Which makes me wonder, like, if those games had realistic gravity, would they just not feel as good? Even though they were technically more realistic? That's a pretty strong argument as to why realism isn't necessarily the most important factor in making a fun game. Because you'll get those occasional people who are like, oh, you play friggin' Mario? That's dumb. You should play Call of Duty. It's like actual war or whatever. I remember you probably remember this too, there used to be quite a bit of a feud between people who played Call of Duty and people who played Battlefield. And a lot of the times the argument from the Battlefield side was like, oh yeah, Battlefield's just more realistic, so it's better. And I think anyone who's played Arma will laugh at that. I haven't, but I know its reputation. Or Escape from Tarkov, I think that one's also pretty realistic. But yeah, just the idea that Battlefield was better because Call of Duty is an arcade shooter and it's not real. And it's just I frankly didn't really fall on one side or the other. I definitely played way more Call of Duty than Battlefield, but that's just because I only really had time for one shooter in my life. But like I liked both. But yeah, it just goes to show, it proves that argument, at least that part of that argument, wrong. It's like, just because a game is more realistic, it doesn't make it better, right? Because another example of this is in graphics, where I think I've talked about it before, but I went back and tried to play, speaking of Call of Duty, I went back and tried to play Call of Duty 4. The original Modern Warfare, not the one that they made that was also called Modern Warfare, which fucking is dumb. Anyway, Yeah, so I went back to play Call of Duty 4 at one point because I was like, I had fond memories of it. I had nostalgia for it. I was like, all right, I'm going to go play this game that I used to play all the time. It's going to be fun. And, this was long after the PS4 came out. And, I don't remember if the remastered version of Call of Duty 4 was out yet, but I definitely didn't have it. So I was playing the PS3 version. And I started it up, and I started the campaign up, and I looked at the graphics, and I was like, oh god, this looks awful. This game looks freaking awful. Like, maybe, like, it was good for its time, but, like, the fact that they went with 100%, as realistic visual style as possible means that it was very much that the visuals were very much limited by the hardware. And I mean, that even goes for, even though the hardware has improved, that even goes for games nowadays. Where, like, yeah, you can make a really realistic looking person, but, like, in 10 years, when the hardware is better, they're gonna look like crap still. Whereas games like, freaking Wind Waker, that was stylized to all heck, they still look great. What was it? I was looking at a game. I don't remember what game I was looking at, but it was in a video I was watching. There was a game that was like really old. It might have been like Mario 64 or something. But like, I looked at it and I was like, yeah, no, that still looks great. I don't think it was Mario 64, but it was like an old Nintendo game, and because it was stylized, it still looked like really freaking good, even though it was on hardware that was much worse than our current hardware. The current gen stuff. That's one reason why since I stopped playing Call of Duty, basically, I've not really been of the mindset that, more realistic graphics is the best thing about a game could have. That used to be a thought in my head. It's like, oh man, this looks so real. And then I just realized, like, why do I want to look at this? Real life, the graphics in real life are boring. Like, especially, like, there's that stretch. I know I've talked about this before, but there was that stretch in like the early to mid 2000s. Well, even I think it's pretty much basically the whole of the 2000s, starting in like 2004-ish, I would say, where all the AAA devs, aside from Nintendo, because they don't do this, we're just being like, okay, we're gonna make it as realistic as possible. The graphics, that is. We're gonna make the graphics as realistic as possible, and people are gonna be really impressed by our hardware, and it's gonna look great. And then all the games just kind of turned out looking like brown and muddy, and it wasn't interesting to look at all, and it got really, really tiring seeing most of the AAA games being like, oh yes, it's another shooter in brown. I love shooters in brown. Yeah. I mean, that might have even been part of what put me off from shooters for a while. In fact, I'd still say I haven't gotten back into them. It's like, for a while, just everything out there was just not fun to look at. It was just dudes with beards and guns, and they're all dirty and stuff, and ooh, look at this dog's fur, and ooh, the fish swim away from you, and it was just like, hey, I don't need that. That doesn't make the game more fun for me. Whereas, a style like this, maybe this isn't the best example. I know a lot of people don't like the new Super Mario Bros. The new Super Mario Bros. Style, but Like, you know, something more stylized. And I can look at that and be like, wow, not only am I having fun playing the game, but also this game is fun just to look at. So yeah, I think it's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. Why are those blocks there? I thought I was supposed to go up there, but that was not the case. Yeah, I mean, if I ever make a game, I will probably more than likely go for something stylistic than something super, you know, crazy realist or whatever. And the other thing about it too is if you go for more of a simple style, then you don't really need as good a hardware. Like that's a large part of the reason why Nintendo doesn't really put too much focus on having the most powerful hardware in their systems, is because they know they're going to be making, they know they can make their games look good without it, you know? So, might as well save some money and not bother, right? And that's the other thing. That's why another thing about, you know, just graphical fidelity is that it's a big reason why, like, I was rather slow to get into PC gaming, because for the longest time, as far as I could tell, the biggest, really just the biggest and potentially only advantage of gaming on a PC is like, oh, the graphics are better. You know, you can if you build your own PC, you know, you can put as much power as you want in there, and you can upgrade it whenever, and you don't have to buy a whole new system. And then, you know what, that's pretty neat and all, but like, I don't need good graphics. Like for me, it's the gameplay that sells a game, not the graphics. So yeah, even now, a lot of the times here's I guess an example of this is just I own 2 copies of Undertale. One, I have the Steam version, which I got when it, not exactly when it came out, but shortly after. And I'm like, cool, whatever, you know, that's fine. However, when the Switch version came out, I was like, oh, I want that. Because I can more easily play it with a controller, because, you know, consoles are made to be played with controllers. And also, it's on a portable system. And also just, I don't have to worry about, oh, well, my computer died because, you know, I installed a part wrong or something. Generally, consoles are, I'm saying generally, in my experience, consoles are more reliable than PCs. So, again, that could just be because I'm bad with computers, but... oh no. Okay, alright. This level's very slippery. Yeah, I'm still not much of a PC gamer. It also doesn't help that a lot of, since moving back in with my parents, I don't have good internet. And a lot of kind of PC exclusive games are games you would play online. You know, it's stuff like World of Warcraft or League of Legends or those sorts of things. So I'm not... because I just can't play those games regardless, I'm not tempted to play my games on my computer as much. Yeah. That's just kind of my philosophy, though. You know, I'm not gonna hold it against anyone if they like PCs better than consoles or whatever. Frankly, just my biggest deal, my biggest, what's the word I'm actually looking for? The biggest deal breaker for me, I guess, or deal maker, depending on how you want to look at it, is that I can just 90% of the time, probably even more, with a console, I can just put the game in and hit play and it'll go. Like maybe there's an update because day one patches nowadays. But I can just put the game in and go, right? Whereas with PC games, a lot of the times it's like, okay, so A, do you have the right launcher? B, are you running the right operating system? C, do you have the right hardware specs? D, do you want to use a controller with this? Because if you do, you gotta run it through a third-party program. It's like, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to play a game. Ultimately, that's the thing. It just feels like it's more work to play a game on a PC than on a console. So, I play games to relax, not to work. Although I guess this channel's not really the best evidence of that, being that I'm trying to make it a career, but God, I'm trying to mix play and work. Forget about it. That being said, I will be playing computer games eventually on stream and maybe even on the channel. So that will happen eventually. It's just I'm not rushing to do so. I don't know that I have anything on my list that I'm like dying to play that is exclusively available on the PC. Also, can we talk about how Microsoft kind of shot themselves in the foot when it comes to selling? I guess not really, because most of the time when a console manufacturer, when a video game company sells a console, they're usually selling it at a loss. But like, if they really wanted to sell a bunch of Xboxes, they would have made it so that Xbox exclusives were actually exclusive to the Xbox and not available on Windows. But like, I can see why they would do it the other way too. But it just means that someone like me just will never need to buy an Xbox, because I'll probably just have a PC that can run those games. So, yeah. But again, like, companies like Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo make significantly less money off selling consoles than they do off selling the games for those consoles. So, it's probably not even that big a deal. In fact, they're probably making more money if they're selling it on the PC instead of on the Xbox. Because they don't pay to manufacture, well, maybe they do manufacture some, but they don't pay to manufacture all the PCs out there. Whereas they do pay to manufacture all the Xboxes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That was awful. You know what? We're gonna finish this level next time. Cause, as for this episode, that's a wrap. Stop staring at me, Toad. You're freaking me out.